Hey everybody, I'm back in my kitchen. Actually, I haven't left my kitchen. This is part 2 of the Circle of Fifths lesson, but really what I want to focus on is the fact that learning your major scales in all of the keys is only half as difficult as you think it is. And I'm going to prove that to you using the Circle of Fifths. First of all, I want to pick up a little bit where I left off on the last lesson. I kind of demonstrated an exercise where we played the first 2 notes of the major scale going around in fourths. So we went, and we're kind of just going back and forth. Right? I'd like to pick that up and say, hey, another thing you can do is do the first 3 notes. That would be the next thing to do. Back to my treatise on learning the major scales is only half as difficult as you think it is. I need to kind of correct myself. And I'm putting this video out there to kind of cover myself. At the end of my harmonica method, volume 1 of my harmonica method, there's a lesson where I say, hey, what's next? And I start talking about getting ready for volume 2 of my harmonica method, which has not been released yet, and volume 3. And I said, hey, you might as well go ahead and learn the major scales in all the keys and just do your best to figure them out on your own. You know what a major scale sounds like. And hopefully you know the ergonomic principles of the alternate slide F and C. And maybe you could figure out the best times to use those and to not use them. And then I suggested, hey, and I started demonstrating like moving up by half steps. And I don't know what I was thinking, because although that's a great exercise, that's not the best way. Like if you know the C major scale, then you're going to learn the D flat major scale. That is in a place where you're in completely unfamiliar territory. D flat major scale. So I want to show you that learning the scales moving this way and or this way around the circle is a much better way to learn them. And I'm going to let's just talk about the fact that volume 1 of my harmonica method, we focus on 4 keys, and we start here. And perhaps this was more brilliant than I even realized, because these guys are all just so very nicely a 4th and a 5th apart. They all just sit so nice on top of the Circle of Fifths. It's almost like there was a lot of logic and planning and thoughts behind it. And that's part of the reason. But when you learn the C major scale, you've already learned half of the F major scale, and you've learned half of the G major scale. So let's talk about the first 4 notes of the C major scale. It's the same as the last 4 notes of the F major scale. So in the process of learning the C major scale, you've learned half of the F major scale. Let's talk about the last 4 notes of the C major scale. G, A, B, C. It's the first 4 notes of the G major scale. In the G major scale, we're introduced suddenly to a new note, F sharp. And suddenly we're used to pushing the slide in and moving up to G. And we're getting used to E, F sharp, G. And And so that's a new thing, but it's just a little step that we took. Like, okay, I can push the slide in and I can learn how to do this. But that becomes a tributary of knowledge feeding into the other keys. Every time you learn a major scale, you can go both directions, fourths and fifths, and it's helping you with the other scales. So E, F sharp, G all of a sudden helps us when we get to the key of D, and then it becomes a piece of cake. The last four notes of the G major scale are the same as the first four notes of the D major scale. So, tributaries of knowledge, and we are never completely reinventing the wheel. Once you learn the C major scale, you've established like a firm footing, and you can go either direction around this circle of fourths or fifths, and there's some degree of comfort of, hey, I only need to learn a segment of 4 new notes to learn the new scale. I don't have to learn 8 notes. I only need to know 4 notes. So, I hope that encourages you. Learning the major scales is only half as difficult as you think it is. So that's all good news, and I'm just going to say goodbye. I don't know what else to say. I think I said it all. I love the verbiage of tributaries of knowledge feeding into each other, and I have a whole other lesson where I talk about blues and soul kind of funky improvisation stuff, and I don't have like the same mathematical accuracy of like, hey, you've learned half of a new thing, but when we learn blues phrases and stuff in one key, it feeds into other keys, and all the slide ornamentation and grace notes and stuff you can use in a completely different key. And I don't know if I'm explaining that well. I'll get to that lesson, and that's one that I'm really excited about, because that's where all the fun is at, right? The major scale is kind of the groundwork, but I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to use the blues in the key of A. And I'm going to be talking about how the key of D feeds into our ability to improvise in A. And I'm going to be talking about the key of C. Any kind of blues stuff that we've studied in C will help us when we get to the key of A too. So anyway, that's just a sneak preview of that super cool harmonica lesson. Be sure to push the subscribe button. Check out chromaticlessons.com. You know, I'm talking about my harmonica method like it's out already. I'm going to try and get it out this week. The date of this filming is not out. But anyway, by faith. Once again, our sponsor.